book to help us with the skill of the week and the vocabulary. Now the spelling words this week, which are in Spelling City and opened up yesterday, some of those words are words from By the Shores of Silver Lake. Those are vocabulary words from there. Some of the other words are review words from other lists. So if there's words on there that you're like, didn't we already have those ones? Yes, it's because they review. Okay, so I'm going to start with the vocabulary. The vocabulary skill of the week is using context clues. Context clues are words or phrases around a word that can help you determine the unknown word's meaning. Context clues. Using words around the unknown word to help figure out the meaning. Okay, so we're going to do that by reading part of Farmer Boy. Then we'll do the skill, which is plot and character. Okay, I'll try to read like this. Chapter 20, this is also where we left off. We had read this much. This is where we left off when we had stopped reading this oh so very long ago. Wood hauling. When school opened as usual that January, Almanzo did not have far to go. He was hauling wood. He did not have to go to school. So Almanzo did not have to go to school when everybody else did, because he was hauling wood from the timber. In the frosty cold mornings before the sun was up, Father hitched the big oxen to the big bobsled, and Almanzo hitched the yearlings to his bobsled. Star and Bright were not too big for the little yoke, and the larger yoke was too heavy for Almanzo to handle alone. Wait, okay, here is one of the words. Yearling. See if you can see that. What do we think a yearling is? Let's use our context clues to figure out what a yearling could be. And let's break down this word a little bit. What other words do you see in here? Year. Right. Okay, so maybe it means let's make a hypothesis or an educated guess. Maybe it has something to do with being 1 year old. Okay, that seems like a pretty logical guess. Now let's use some of the context clues around it and our prior knowledge. Okay. Who is Star and Bright? Do you guys remember who Star and Bright were? There's a clue. Star and Bright were his oxen. Okay. So he's working with Star and Bright. And what? Think back, it's been a long time. Okay. How old were Star and Bright when he got them? They were calves. That's right. They were little when he got them. Okay. And when he got them, it was what? It was wintertime when he got them. And now it's wintertime again. So how much time has passed? 1 whole year. A year has passed. And let's go to our context clues here. Okay. Star and Bright were now too big for the little yoke, and the larger yoke was too heavy for Almanzo to handle alone. Okay, so a whole year has gone by. Star and Bright are growing. So a yearling is an animal that is 1 year old. Okay? It's a whole year. So yearling is an animal that's 1 year old. I mean, if you want to call your younger sibling or cousin or whatever that's a year, you want to call them a yearling? You know, whatever helps you. Okay. Pierre, who, if you remember, is his neighbor and friend, Pierre had to help him lift it onto Star's neck, and Louis helped him push Bright under the other end of it. The yearlings had been idle all summer in the pastures, and now they did not like to work. Okay, so this again tells us that a whole year has gone by. We know this story started in the wintertime, and it's wintertime again. But even more, he says all summer. They shook their heads and pulled him back. It was hard to get the bows in place and put the bow pins in. Almanzo had to be patient and gentle. He petted the yearlings when sometimes he wanted to hit them, and he fed them carrots and talked to them soothingly. But before he could get them yoked and hitched to his sled, Father was already going to the timber lot. Hey, anybody know what a yoke is, by the way? This is a yoke. It holds the, sorry, it's this. It holds them together and makes them work together. Okay, now to be yoked, what do you think? Now we know what a yoke is, so what does it mean to be yoked together? Are you yoking me? No, I'm not joking, no, yoking. Yoking, that means tied together. So he's now tied them together. And we can use our context clues and our prior knowledge to figure that out based on what we read here. Before he could get them yoked and hitched to his sled, Father was already going to the timber lot. So, before he could get them all tied together, his dad had already left. Almanzo followed. The yearlings obeyed him when he shouted, "Giddy up!" And they turned to the right or left when he cracked his whip and shouted, "Gee!" or "Haw!" They trudged along the road, up the hills and down the hills, and Almanzo rode on his bobsled, with Pierre and Louis behind him. He was 10 years old now, and he was driving his own oxen on his own sled and going to the timber to haul wood. 10 years old, that's about the age you are. Or maybe, or a little younger. Okay? So, what do you think? You want to start driving your own oxen out and hauling timber? In the woods, the snow was drifted high against the trees. The lowest branch of pines and cedars were buried in it. There was no road. There was no marks in the snow, but the feather-stitching tracks of birds and the blurry spots where rabbits had hopped. Deep in the still woods, axes were chopping with a ringing sound. Father's big oxen wallowed on, breaking a road, and Almanzo's yearlings struggled behind them. Wallowed. You know, guys happen to know what the word wallowed means? Okay, maybe you've heard, I'm pretty sure I've said it, wallow in self-pity. Wallowing. Let's use our context clues to figure out what that could mean. Wallowed. Father's big oxen wallowed on, breaking a road, and Almanzo's yearlings struggled behind them. Alright, so in the story, they're trudging through deep snow. You know what it's like to walk through deep snow right after it snows in your boots, and it's hard work. So the oxen, which are two cattle, pulling the sled through here, they're wallowing on. So they're trudging, they're walking deeply through this. Struggling is the clue word there. We know what it means to struggle through the snow, so that gives us a clue to what wallowed could mean. If you're wallowing in self-pity, you're just sitting there, oh, everything is awful, and it's terrible, and everybody hates me, blah, woe is me, it's a tragedy, blah. And somebody to stop wallowing in self-pity and do something with whatever's bothering you. That's what that means. So don't sit around doing this. Make something of it. Go out and do something. Let's go back to finding more context clues now that we've had that dramatic moment. Further and further into the woods they went, till they came to the clearing where French Joe and Lazy John were chopping down the trees. Logs lay all around, half buried in snow. John and Joe had sawed them into 15-foot lengths, and some of them were 2 feet through. The huge logs were so heavy that 6 men couldn't lift them, but Father had to load them on the bobsled. He stopped the sled beside one of them, and John and Joe came to help him. They had 3 stout poles called skids. They stuck these under the log and let them slant up to the bobsled. Then they took their cant poles. Well, I don't know about you, but I've never been chopping down trees putting them on bobsleds, and I don't know what a cant pole is. That's why I circled it. Cant pole. How can I figure this out? How can I figure out what that word means? Right, by using my context clues, the words around this unknown word. Alright, now I'm going to keep reading here. But of what I've read so far, they're trying to put these logs on here. It seems like, alright, we got to let these heavy logs fall onto this thing. So they're going to pick up these poles, see what else they say. Cant poles have sharp ends with a big iron hook swinging loose under them. Oh, so look, Laura Ingalls Wilder, gives us some more clues about what this looks like. And there's even a picture to help us with this. So it seems as though cant poles are some kind of a big, giant, see, it's something like this, only with a hook on it. It helps them lift the logs on there. It helps them push the logs onto where they're going. John and Joe stood near the ends of the log. They put the sharp ends of their cant poles against it, and when they raised the poles up, the cant hooks bit into the log and it rolled a little. Then Father caught hold of the middle of the log with his cant pole and hook, and he held it from rolling back, while John and Joe quickly let their cant hooks slip down and take another bite. So it's a hook. Okay, so I'm gonna, bad artwork time. Yay, we have not had that during our distance learning moments here. So bad artwork time, woohoo! All right, we got ourselves a log here. Yeah, it's not too bad. We got some texture here. All right, we got a guy. Yep. All right, he cannot lift this thing. So he's gonna need a pole to help him with this. And it's got a hook on the end. And it hooks into this log to help him move it around because he can't lift that. That's too heavy. So he's going to use this to do the work for him. Now, if he's super awesome, he's going to have a friend who's got the other end, maybe, and they're going to, you know, and he's going to help him move it around. And then they're going to drag it around on the ground and get it to where they want it to go. So this is what we can tell what a cant pole looks like just by using our context clues, the words around the word, and continuing to read through the story. We were able to figure out what a cant pole looks like. We were able to use the words that Laura gave us and our imagination and prior knowledge to come up with what the words mean.